So are you still using StockX? Last year, it may have felt like a almost down year for the company, somewhat of like a PR nightmare, of course, with the whole major Nike lawsuit. But actually, when you take a look at the numbers, StockX has continued to increase their sales volume every year for the last 7 years plus. And on top of that, they just implemented a brand new CEO, which he's going to be coming up here actually right now in January. They've also implemented several new policy changes. So with all of that being said, I kind of want to gauge from the community, how they currently feel about StockX, because it seems like online, people always have a lot of negative things to say, but just based off the fact that sales volume has continued to increase each year, is the online narrative really matching up to how people feel in real life? I also want to get some feedback from you guys, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. So what's going on, everybody? JA here. Salute to you for tuning in. I appreciate you guys. If y'all enjoy the updates, make sure you smash the like button down below. Now, as far as StockX, back in November, they actually first put out the press release announcing their new CEO, who goes by the name of Greg Schwartz. He actually happens to be one of StockX's co-founders, and he's actually going to be replacing Scott Cutler, which actually begins here in January. So as far as sales figures, as we take a look here at the data since 2018, each year StockX has continued to increase their sales volume, in which they've done, a few different ways through various promotions, marketing tactics, but StockX has also continued to expand their lineup, getting into like selling more luxury goods, even watches and different stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's really about the clothes as well as sneakers, which I feel like StockX is probably the leader when it comes to the big reselling apps. Of course, you got GOAT, eBay, but it feels like most people, talk about StockX when discussing reselling and everything like that. So recently, I don't know if you guys saw this, but the new CEO did send out an email, I guess you could say, going over StockX's big accomplishments over 2024. It kind of feels like for this year, low key, like a PR nightmare, of course, with the whole Nike lawsuit, which at the end of the day really felt like kind of more of a smear campaign. Because if you guys recall, that original Nike lawsuit actually stemmed from the use of NFTs, but then kind of boiled down to like StockX selling fakes and everything like that. So it kind of felt like a move where Nike, was paying their billion-dollar lawyers just to kind of like ruin StockX's reputation. But it seems like a lot of that chatter may just be online, because it looks like StockX is just continuing to grow each year. So they're boasting that they had their biggest Cyber Monday yet. Several brands, including Asics, Fear of God, and Timberland, saw record-breaking orders, while Adidas, Yeezy, Lego, and Stanley posted strong year-over-year growth. So that's kind of interesting to see Yeezy in there, being is that, the Adidas Yeezy partnership is no longer. Lego making some big moves. As I just mentioned previously, StockX has continued to add new collectible items into the mix, and that would also include Stanley Cups, which was a huge viral moment for Stanley. It feels like everybody got themselves some Stanley Cups this year. Now, they're also saying they made some expansion to their express shipment options, which GOAT kind of took a little bit of fire under lately. A lot of people accuse GOAT of not being able to live up to their one-day shipment option, which I felt like as a customer, I kind of dealt with some of those issues as well. But according to StockX, they said in preparation for the holiday season, we made hundreds of thousands of products available for quicker shipping via express ship. So that's cool or whatever, not a huge deal. They also said gift cards available in more markets, which I feel like that's not really a big deal. But for me as a consumer, I feel like this was the biggest, change that StockX made to their policy, which they finally implemented a proper return system for U.S. customers. Now, if you guys are outside of the States, you may be laughing at us, because for years you guys have been able to return your stuff through StockX. But just this year, for the very first time, StockX introduced a new return policy for U.S.-based customers, which they say they're offering an enhanced shopping experience with more flexibility. For the first time ever, you are eligible to return items 14 days of delivery for a full refund in the form of StockX credit, minus the original shipping costs, which that's understandable. But they also do want to let you know that returns are handled by StockX, and sellers are not responsible for processing or taking back the item when a buyer makes a return. When we first heard about StockX implementing a return policy, resellers all across the country were panicking, worrying that they would be responsible for covering the returns. But it's simply just the case where StockX would, in return, keep the item to which they could then sell off at a later date. And then as far as the credits, that would be applied back to the customer. So real easy. I feel like that just makes things better for us as customers, because let's say you order an item from StockX, you feel like that joint's fake, or maybe you feel like it didn't live up to the quality control. The joints may have like a scuff, or you may just feel unpleased with the item. Maybe you got the wrong size or something like that, in which you have up to 14 days to return the item. Now, it is important to note that for unreleased pairs or brand new releases, those won't be eligible for return. So when purchasing, just make sure you read all the fine print, if you are anticipating having to return something. So with all of that being said, I feel like the return policy was a major move for StockX, and something that, as far as for me as a customer, will make me, appreciate them more. I feel like they're taking the leaps and bounds to make the customer experience better for us. And for StockX, I'll be continuing to use them here in 2025. Now, as far as the last time I paid resale for something, I really can't tell you, but low key, sometimes I'll be kind of sniping StockX, maybe to get deals for under retail, if you guys know what I'm saying. Now, I did come across this poll over on Twitter. Salute to Kari, aka Sneaker Fetish, over on the platform. One of the bigger voices in the sneaker Twitter space. He said, question now, do you trust StockX, or are you no longer using the platform for fear of getting a fake shoe? Now, we had roughly about 1,500 votes, to which the majority, coming in at just around 67%, said they still do not trust StockX. Now, it's important to make note that this is a Twitter poll, which definitely can maybe reflect a swayed opinion, or maybe not actually reflect how people feel in real life. But let's go ahead and take a look here at the comment section, which this dude, Mike L., he said, had a horrible experience as a seller of an item, and that was enough for me. But then all the nonsense came out about them not knowing if shoes are real or not, cemented it. I'll never use them for anything ever. Okay, wow. So, never using StockX again. Somebody put, I have not used it in a while for personal pairs, but I have some trust for it. I think they have also gotten better with their options for unhappy customers by adding returns and no fee resale. Just get your second and third opinions quickly and before removing the tag. That's a good point. And I agree with this dude right here, JD. That's kind of where I was coming at. I feel like they're like kind of taking the steps to kind of turn around some of those negative narratives. And I appreciate that StockX is listening to customers. Now, this dude, Ron, he said, I would still use them for B or C tier non-hype kicks that I wanted at the time, but just didn't have the money. Many of those are also below retail and a less hype for, let's say, making a fake less likely. A GR Jordan, Air Max, or SB Dunk would be likely options. Yeah, that's where I'm going with it too. That's a good point. Yeah, like when it comes to hyped up releases, such as stuff like Travis Scott Jordans, or, sneakers that can easily be faked, or like sneakers that they know are massively produced in these fake factories. I feel like that's the ones you probably want to stay away from. But as far as the general releases, especially the under retail pairs, I feel like you're pretty safe using StockX. Now, somebody put, all of a sudden, platforms are faulty and you can only trust them, but so much in general. I bought a pair from them earlier this year and everything was fine, but I've known of people having issues with them, and as well as all sites. So it's just you, pick your poison. Good point. Yeah, I feel like when it comes to this conversation, while a lot of people want to accuse StockX of getting in fakes, I feel like if you're going to accuse StockX of getting fakes, you're going to have to accuse eBay as well as GOAT, because I feel like none of these platforms are ever going to be perfect. When it comes to the fake market, it's just so huge and profitable that fakes are going to be continuing to be produced. And, every so once in a while, fakes are going to get through there. So I feel like it's kind of unfair to just like throw all of the negative press on StockX when GOAT as well as eBay's have reportedly also let fakes through. I feel like it's never going to be exactly perfect. That's why it's kind of always up to the buyer's responsibility before cutting off that StockX tag, especially if you paid high ticket for a hype item. You definitely want to maybe get a second or sometimes even a third opinion. So somebody put, depends on the shoe, and you can get fakes through Go and eBay. So you're basically playing Russian roulette with all of these exactly what I'm saying right here. So I'm glad that people seem to be a little bit more reasonable when it comes to these StockX narratives. Somebody else put, haven't trusted them since they sent that far too late. We're sorry that your card information was leaked. That's a good point. They did have that massive data breach. So some people may still be fearful, from that, which that happened, what was that, like 2 years ago or something like that? So at the end of the day, StockX, while they have gotten a lot of bad press, they got the huge Nike lawsuit, which they just implemented in their new CEO. Nike, by the way, also has implemented their new CEO. And so what I'm hoping is maybe, they can like settle this whole lawsuit, move on from that, which, it doesn't really affect me, but at the end of the day, feels like it's kind of like a bad press PR nightmare. And it kind of moved from what the original lawsuit was about and moved on to kind of more so of like a smear campaign. So bottom line, StockX, their numbers continue to increase each year. And for me, I'll probably stay away from buying any hype stuff, which at the end of the day, I'm really not buying anything hype like that for resale. But when it comes to under retail, massive GRs, I feel like StockX is still the way to go, especially sometimes when you can't get these joints on sale. The secondary market is the only way to go. So comment down below, guys. Want to hear your feedback. We just looked at some of the stuff from Twitter, but of course, I care more so about what my community thinks. So drop your feedback down below. Are you guys still using StockX in 2025? I'll catch you next time. I'm J.A. and I'm out. Love.